Which pasta dish is an easy top 5 pick at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse? And which lobster meal should you avoid in order to dodge disappointment? Let us know your favorites and keep watching for the best and worst things you can order. Is there anything more depressing than a wedge salad? Don't get us wrong, we love salads, and that's why we feel the need to call out this abomination of a side dish. The lettuce wedge is incredibly simple, and not in a good way. First, you'll get some crunchy, watery lettuce that's hardly appetizing if you're the kind of person who generally enjoys salads. That lettuce comes with blue cheese and bacon on top. When you order a big, hearty steak, you should want your side dishes to do a good job complementing the star of the show. And because steaks can be so heavy, you're probably on the lookout for a light and refreshing side. So why on earth would you want your veggies completely doused in dairy products and meat? It just doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
Ruth's Chris Steakhouse is far from the cheapest chain restaurant around, so it might feel like a special occasion every time you go. You're paying for access to delicious, well-cooked steaks after all. So why would you order the stuffed chicken breast instead? We understand that not everyone wants to eat red meat all the time, but this entree is simply not the right choice in that scenario. The breast is definitely the least flavorful kind of chicken you can choose. This particular breast is stuffed with garlic, herb cheese, and lemon butter, which instantly has us snoring. It's something you could easily make at home, that is, if you could be bothered to whip up something this bland. Ruth's Chris has so many incredible cuts of meat, so don't sell yourself short by opting for the chicken breast. We love a good seafood appetizer, but if you're wondering whether you should order the calamari from Ruth's Chris, we're here to tell you that the answer is no. It's not because we don't like calamari. When it's done well, there's nothing better. But the calamari at Ruth's Chris is simply not the best. The squid is lightly fried, but somehow it's still way too greasy. When you order seafood, you probably want something on the lighter side. So this clearly isn't ideal. It's paired with a sweet and spicy chili sauce that's really more sweet than it is spicy. And the worst part is that it's super rubbery, making it hard to even finish chewing a piece once you take a bite. It's decidedly not the ideal calamari situation.
I'll baptize that piece of calamari!
If you're like us, a sweet potato casserole makes you think of fun times with family, gathered around a table at the holidays. It may be a side dish, but it's also sweet enough to pull off double duty as a dessert. So when you see the sweet potato casserole on the Ruth's Chris menu, you may be tempted to give it a try. But you should know that it's not one of our favorite sides available. First of all, there's the texture. It's way mushier than you might expect, almost to the point of being a liquid. Then there's the lack of flavor. It almost tastes like no spices were used at all. Finally, add in the weird soggy topping, and it's a side dish that we'd rather just avoid. Don't worry though, as there are other tasty potato options on the menu.
Potatoes. Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
We don't want to talk too poorly about lobster mac and cheese because it's one of those modern-day comfort foods that seriously hits the spot when you need it to. How can you not love lobster, cheese, and pasta all in one dish? But when it comes to the lobster mac and cheese at Ruth's Chris, we're a little less than impressed. It's just such a basic dish. There's simply no strong flavors in the mix, so it all ends up being quite blah. Lobster, pasta, and cheese can already be light on the flavor, so we wish there was a bit more going on. If you're truly craving some amazing lobster mac and cheese, you can easily find another restaurant where they serve the good stuff. So instead, focus on what Ruth's Chris does best. While we're grateful that there are salads on the menu at Ruth's Chris, their chopped salad isn't anything to write home about. It's better than the lettuce wedge, but that's not saying much. The chopped salad is about as boring as they come. Atop a bed of lettuce, you'll find mushrooms, bacon, egg, and olives. If that sounds like it's missing a lot of delicious veggies, you're not wrong. It's also got blue cheese and a basil dressing on top, but they don't do much to make it better. Again, this salad is packed with animal products that don't exactly lend themselves to freshness. Any flavor from the veggies is drowned by all the blue cheese. If you really want to get a salad on the side, this one might technically fit the bill, but you shouldn't go out of your way to visit Ruth's Chris just to try these greens. You'll have the choice between a few different desserts when you make your way to Ruth's Chris, and most of them are at least decent. But our least favorite is definitely the bread pudding. That's mostly because it's too sweet. When you first bite into it, it tastes good. but it can actually hurt your teeth a little bit. Dessert obviously shouldn't be painful. The more you try to eat, the more you'll realize just how over the top the sweetness is. We do like the texture the bread pudding has from the raisins though, and the whiskey sauce is definitely solid, so much so that we wish we could put it on a wider variety of foods. But with other mouth-watering desserts on the menu, there's no reason to opt for the bread pudding. When you go out to a restaurant like Ruth's Chris, there's a good chance that you're celebrating a special occasion. Whether it's an anniversary, a graduation, or just the end of the work week, it may very well be an occasion for splurging and getting an appetizer. Appetizers are amazing because they allow you to sample more flavors without having to order too many whole entrees. And that's where the mushrooms stuffed with crab meat come in. We like that this item isn't something that you're going to see everywhere, which makes it more appealing. And in theory, it sounds amazing, but in reality, it's a bit lackluster. The mushrooms have a rubbery texture and the crab meat is bland. It was a good try on Ruth's Chris's part, but we don't think we'll be starting off our order with these mushrooms anytime soon. When it comes to the cheesecake at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, you probably won't regret ordering it. But is it the best dessert on the menu? Absolutely not. If anything, Ruth's Chris cheesecake just tastes like the store-bought variety. It's not bad per se, but it's just not interesting in any particular way. They could have added a variety of ingredients to the cheesecake, but they decided not to. It's served with fresh berries and mint, which do add a nice touch, as the tartness of the berries pairs well with the sweetness of the rest of the dessert. However, because this cheesecake is so simple, it's not exactly the best choice for splurging on a special night out. Isn't novelty half the fun, after all? It's usually not a bad idea to order seafood at a steak restaurant, but that doesn't mean it's always going to be the best thing on the menu, and the garlic-crusted sea bass at Ruth's Chris is no exception. That's not to say that it's the worst fish dish available. After all, when you crust something in garlic, it's pretty much guaranteed to taste at least somewhat good. But that's no reason to give this our total seal of approval. Perhaps because Ruth's Chris is a steak restaurant and not a place that specializes in seafood, you can't guarantee that your fish isn't going to come out overcooked. And the garlic-crusted bass is not necessarily a lovingly prepared fillet of fish. Rather, it seems like more of an afterthought, in fact. If you're looking for a lighter seafood option, then this may be the way to go. But if you'd prefer to enjoy something more interesting and flavorful, there are much better options, even if you avoid the steak. How can you not love shrimp cocktail? There's just something about this classic dish that keeps people coming back for more, time and time again. It's a chance to really appreciate shrimp for all it is, as it's not fried or doused in a complicated sauce before it even arrives at the table. Instead, you get to choose how much cocktail sauce you want on each bite. The sauce itself has a spiciness from the horseradish that'll make you want to eat the whole dish, and when the two come together, it's magic. That's all true of shrimp cocktail in general. But when it comes to the shrimp cocktail at Ruth's Chris, you can take it or leave it. As it is indeed shrimp cocktail, you can rest assured that it's going to have some basic appeal. But there's nothing unique or interesting about the sauce, and the shrimp probably aren't the freshest you've ever eaten. That being said, sometimes you just have to start off your meal with some shrimp cocktail. So we understand if you insist on ordering this. Let's get one thing straight here. Pretty much any steak you get at Ruth's Chris is going to be a satisfying choice. This place specializes in steaks after all, so you know you're going to get something that you'll actually enjoy. But there are definitely some cuts of meats we like better than others. While a New York strip is generally a great option, it's not the best choice at this particular chain.
I can do better!
When you select the New York strip, you'll get a tougher cut of meat than many of the other menu options. That's because New York strips don't have as much marbling, which is that fattiness that melts into the rest of the steak, making it juicier and more tender. It tastes good, but there are much more impressive steaks available. If you insist on ordering this cut, we definitely recommend going with a rare or medium rare preparation so that the meat doesn't get too chewy. Sometimes when you go out for a nice meal, you want to order something that feels kind of special and impressive. But this isn't an Applebee's, and you're not going to be able to order the sizzling fajitas. So what should you opt for at Ruth's Chris? The sizzling crab cakes entree should absolutely get the job done. You'll get 3 jumbo lump crab cakes that come out with sizzling lemon butter, which adds just the right amount of fat and acidity to give the crab an extra hit of flavor. That said, we do wish that the crab in this dish were just slightly more flavorful. This particular entree could have packed more of a punch if it had a touch of spiciness to it. or even just a more interesting concoction of mild spices. However, because the presentation is so special, we can look past those minor flaws. If you love a good crab cake, this option should definitely be up for consideration. If you're looking for a nice, hefty steak that is sure to fill you up and taste amazing in the process, then the Ruth's Chris T-bone steak may very well be waiting in your future. That's because when you order a T-bone, you're actually getting two different cuts of meat. On one side of the bone, you'll find the strip steak, which has a reputation as a super flavorful cut. And you don't have to stop there, because on the other side is the tenderloin, which is famous for its tenderness, naturally enough. Because of the bone in this cut of steak, you're going to hang on to more of that flavor and juiciness. Be warned, though, that this is a really big cut of meat. It weighs in at 24 ounces, so you're going to want to make sure that you're really hungry before ordering it, or maybe be prepared to share some with the rest of your table. If you do, go ahead and order it. We're pretty confident you won't be disappointed.
Hey, T-bone!
When you go to a steakhouse, you're probably only thinking about the beef. So you ask questions like, what's the best cut? And how many ounces do you want to tackle? But when you take a look at the Ruth's Chris menu, you may very well discover something that you may not have bargained for: the lamb chops. For lamb lovers, this is a total dream come true. Not every restaurant even offers lamb on its menu, so you may just want to take advantage of it here. If you're not familiar with lamb meat, it's worth a try. It has a stronger taste than beef, and it can also be described as gamey. Don't let that turn you off, though. When lamb is cooked well, it's absolutely delicious. Ruth's Chris doesn't necessarily have the best lamb in the world, but if you want to give it a try, you can't go wrong by selecting their lamb chops. If you're looking for one of the tastiest side dishes on the Ruth's Chris menu, you can't go wrong with the Cremini Mushrooms. If you know anything about mushrooms, then you know that this is one of the most popular varieties available. They have a nice, mild flavor, so even those who usually aren't huge fans of mushrooms might like this dish. The texture is also nice, soft, and meaty without being too rubbery. These mushrooms are pan-roasted, which really helps to draw out the liquid and brown the mushrooms, giving them a sweet, caramelized flavor you're going to fall in love with. What's even better is the veal demi-glace, which lends a savoriness to the mushrooms that you won't get from most side dishes. Add in the fresh thyme, and it's clear why this dish is such a winner. If you're looking for a go-to veggie side at this steakhouse, now you know what to look for. One thing you might notice if you frequent Ruth's Chris is the general lack of spicy items on the menu. If you like dishes that offer a bit of heat, you probably won't be too pleased with the selection at this chain. But don't despair completely, as there is one dish that can deliver what you're looking for, and that's the spicy shrimp. The shrimp itself is juicy and plump, and it's also fried to give it some texture. But the magic really happens when you add in the velvety spicy cream sauce. It's not every day that you see spicy sauces that are also creamy. So we love Ruth's Chris for offering something different. This may seem like a lighter meal because it's just seafood, but it's actually incredibly filling. So shrimp lovers, this is definitely a menu option that you should check out. We were surprised ourselves that the Seared Ahi Tuna landed a spot so close to the top of this list, but once you try it for yourself, you'll totally understand why. This fish is cooked to perfection, which isn't always the case at seafood spots, let alone steakhouses. The outside is seared well, giving it almost a crispy crust. However, the inside looks completely raw, so you get to enjoy all that flavor you can only get from raw tuna. It also comes out beautifully plated, so you may want to snap a few pictures and share it on Instagram before you dig in. The ahi tuna is also served with fresh English cucumbers, which add a lightness to the meal that complements the fish well. Add in the mustard beer sauce, and it's clear why this is one of our favorite items on the menu. We know that not everyone will want to order fish at a steakhouse, but if it sounds good to you, you should totally go for it. In general, ribeyes are considered one of the best cuts of meat. That's because they're very well marbled with fat, giving you incredible amounts of flavor and tenderness throughout the entire cut. Therefore, you're going to be fine at pretty much any restaurant you order a ribeye at that knows how to cook it well. And Ruth's Chris Steakhouse knows how to cook it well, which is why it's one of our favorite cuts there. This steak weighs in at 16 ounces, which is one of the more reasonable sizes on the menu. Compare that to an 11-ounce filet, which might not be enough for some people, while a 24-ounce T-bone steak can be too big and intimidating. But since the ribeye is right in the middle, it's a generally more approachable option. Like most steaks, this cut will taste best to most diners when cooked medium rare. But that decision is ultimately up to you. Just don't blame us if you order it well done and get an overcooked steak.
Just the way I like it!
There's just something about a seafood tower that gets the party started immediately. The fish itself is tasty, and on top of that, there's the impressive presentation. Who doesn't want to be served a massive platter full of delicious food that they probably don't eat on a regular basis? That's why the chilled seafood tower at Ruth's Chris earns high marks from us. You're going to get a variety of seafood when you order this dish. The king crab is definitely something special, and it's a great way to start off your meal. Then comes the succulent, juicy shrimp that tastes amazing on ice. The lobster may be the most luxurious part of the tower, so you'll want to really savor it. And don't forget about the colossal lump crab, which is also a treat that you won't be able to get enough of. This might seem like more of an appetizer to share with the whole table, but if you want, you can go ahead and make it your entree. We certainly won't judge.
Who am I to judge?
It's time to talk about the best dessert on the entire menu. When you go to Ruth's Chris, you need to leave some room for the chocolate sin cake. It really is sinfully good. This is a flourless cake, which means that it's exceptionally moist, so you're not going to have to worry about taking a bite of a dry slice. Ganache adds a layer of richness and luxury, and also adds even more to the chocolatey flavor. This may all sound pretty intense and frankly too heavy, but don't give up, because there's a true game changer in the form of the raspberry sauce. This is a relatively sweet sauce, but it packs a punch with a tartness that really transforms the whole dessert. The rich sweetness from the chocolate and the tartness of the sauce come together perfectly to create a dessert that we want to have every night after dinner. If you really want to treat yourself when you go out to Ruth's Chris, then the chocolate sin cake is an absolute must. When you go out to eat, you may already know exactly what you want before you even sit down at the table. And for people like that, the Petite Filet and shrimp at Ruth's Chris may not sound like the best option. But for those of us who can't make up our minds about what to order, this may in fact just be the perfect choice. Because when you choose the Petite Filet and shrimp, you basically get to try 2 entrees in one. This dish comes with 2 tiny 4-ounce filet medallions for your steak portion. These medallions might be small, but they're packing a lot of flavor. You're going to be blown away by how tender they are. The small size also makes them seem more manageable and helps you to savor them more than you would if they were bigger. This dish also comes with 6 large shrimp, which are much lighter than the steak, adding a nice contrast to what otherwise would be a really heavy meal. So if you're in a surf and turf mood when you head out to Ruth's Chris, then the Petite Filet and shrimp might just become your new go-to order. Whether you're celebrating a momentous occasion or you just really want to impress your date with something special, you might want to consider the Tomahawk for 2. If you're not sure quite yet if it's worth it, let us assure you, it's worth it. The first thing you should know about this cut is that it comes out with a massive bone still attached to the steak. That's part of the appeal, as it really does offer a wow factor that you're just not going to get from any other cut on the menu. It's not just about the looks, as the Tomahawk for 2 is also an especially tasty cut. This is a thick steak, so you're going to get a lot of meat in every bite. It's also really well marbled, meaning that all that fat has soaked into the meat. And since this steak weighs in at a whopping 40 ounces, you're not going to worry about not having enough to share. In fact, you may even be able to share it with 3 or 4. Once you taste it though, you probably won't want to. Did you think that you were going to see a pasta dish snagging one of the top 2 spots at a ranking of Ruth's Chris dishes? Probably not. But the Veal Osso Buco Ravioli really is something special. It's certainly filling, but we definitely think you should give it a try if you want to taste the best of the best on the menu. The saffron-infused pasta is out of this world, and it pairs so well with the sautéed spinach that adds a touch of green and freshness to the dish. But what really brings out the flavor is the veal demi-glace. It's an incredibly rich sauce that pairs so well with what would otherwise be a rather light pasta. This may not be something you would think to order at a steakhouse, but it truly is something special. Give it a try the next time you go. It's finally time for the best of what Ruth's Chris has to offer, and it should come as no surprise that it is, in fact, a steak. We love a lot of the dishes on the menu, but this one is undoubtedly a cut above the rest. It's the Porterhouse for 2, and you might not even want to share it once you taste how good it is. Ruth's Chris website describes it as having the richness of a strip and the tenderness of a filet. So if you want the best of both worlds, it's clear why this steak is your best bet. We also love the fact that this is a dish that you can share, thereby making for an ideal date night. It's a 40-ounce steak, which should be more than enough meat for 2 people. Seriously, it's a lot. And getting to share adds something special to the dining experience. If you truly want the best that Ruth's Chris has to offer, we can't recommend enough the Porterhouse for 2.
I'm gonna consume all of this at the same time because I am a free American.
Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more mashed videos about your favorite restaurant chains are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.